Should we talk about the other Phoenix Suns? Devin Booker, the GOAT, Bol Bol. The rookies, Ryan Dunn and Oso Ighodaro. Michael Bolton. Let's go.
Thanks, Josh. It's Michael Bolton here, and it's time for another episode of the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Podcast. Let's get to it.
Let's get to it, indeed.
You are Locked On Fantasy, your daily NBA fantasy podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Podcast, brought to you by Basketball Monster. My name is Josh Lloyd and I'm just out here aura farming. I'm also the lead fantasy analyst at basketballmonster.com, and today's episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use the code LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. Thank you also for making Locked On Fantasy Basketball your first listen every day. We are free and we're available on all platforms for all you double bangers and you everydayers. You're out here thumbing and commenting and you're watching and you're listening and you're learning. And tomorrow we're doing a Dynasty show. I didn't mention that, but we are doing a Dynasty show. A couple of Dynasty buys, a couple of Dynasty sells. Just a bit of a Dynasty discussion regarding some theories, strategies, and some specific players. And then on Wednesday, we'll have a couple of NBA, well, I'm not sure exactly how I'm going to release them, but I am recording them. Some NBA draft prospect preview shows discussing a few of the draft prospects. Yeah, starting that. So we're interspersing all that sort of stuff along with season reviews over the next 2 months or so. So we are here, like I said, to talk about the Phoenix Suns, who could look incredibly different next season. Durant, Beal, Booker, are they going to be there? I've got no idea. And they are old, and they are out of assets, and it could be incredibly, incredibly ugly. What we're going to talk about here is the players who are under the age of 29, because half their roster is over 29 and half is under, and that is not usually the split that we get. But that does enable us at least to talk about the Suns' best, maybe not, I guess you could argue whether he's their best player or not, but he's definitely likely to be their best player next season, and that is Devin Booker. Well, again, that's assuming that he's there. Booker was drafted in the second round of most fantasy drafts this season, and in the end, his ADP was 21. In the end, I would suggest that he sort of was around that mark. He wasn't exactly there. He probably was worse than what you hoped. It is interesting, though. Again, I'm not sure that people would know this. Maybe they would. Booker's already 29. Like, he's not still 26. He's 29. He ended the season as the 25th ranked player, 26th in points leagues, which is obviously below that ADP of 21. Post-trade deadline, 18th. Sorry, pre-trade deadline, 18th. Post, 42nd. So that dragged him down. He had a usage of 30. So him and Durant, 29.5 and 29 usage for the two of them. Beal down at 22. So obviously the split was very much Durant-Booker focused. But much like with Durant, much like with Beal, the Darko values of these players all looked horrible in terms of how badly they regressed. Now, some of that, I think, is playing on a team that was just so incredibly disappointing that blame has to be apportioned somewhere. So if you're as bad as, for as good as they were, and as bad as they ended up, they're going to drop. So here's a 5th percentile Darko delta and a 22nd percentile drip delta. And look, when you are you're 29, so you're getting towards that time where decline hits, you do expect something to drop. But I don't think that Booker's just going to fall off the face of the earth or anything like that. He still averaged 25.5 points with 4 rebounds and 7 assists, despite them trying to make Tyus Jones their starting point guard. He shot 46 from the field, 89 from the line. Part of the real issue with Booker this season is he hit 33% from 3. Now, he has never been an elite 40% three-point shooter. The thing that always bothered me when I was early on doing this podcast is that Devin Booker would come in and people go, he's like Klay Thompson. Okay, he's not like Klay Thompson just because they look sort of similar. Because Klay Thompson is an elite three-point shooter. Devin Booker is not, and he never has been. He still has that impression of being this elite 40% three-point guy. It's like Trae Young also. Never been that player. I'm not saying he's a bad three-point shooter. He's a good shooter. He gets good volume. He takes tough shots. But that tough shots don't always translate across to fantasy in that way. And that's a detriment. Now, I do think here, given the fact that we don't know who their coach is, Tyus Jones at point guard didn't really work, and Booker still got 7 assists, could that actually improve next season? Sure. Could his usage go up if Durant is not there? I would say that gets harder to say because, he's already at 30. It'd be more likely to me that a player coming in or Bradley Beal goes up to 27 or 28 or 26 or whatever to take on some of that Durant load. But It's possible that he averages 27 with 7.5 assists next season, Devin Booker. Hit 36 of your threes, get to 47.5 from the field, and we're back at 19 or 20. I don't look at this, as much as it was a little bit of a disappointing season for Booker, I don't look at it and go, well, I guess he's cooked now. I still think he's going to be really solid as a second-round player. I think there's an outside shot he could finish back-end first round next season. Yeah, then we start to get into that, you're 31, 32 now. Maybe we don't expect that. But there are certain things based on how this season went. The assists, the three-point percentage numbers, and even like a 0.9 steal to 1.2 steal season, it changes some of those fortunes. So while it was disappointing, the other thing actually I'd worry about with Booker on a separate note, he has had some injuries. Clearly, he was pretty healthy this season, 75 games, but he played 37 minutes as well. What if that pushes to 35? There could be some changes there. So while it was disappointing, while if you picked him inside the top 20, you would have been let down this season, like that's understandable. I don't think that should mean that we're taking him just to be a consistent third-round guy from now on. I think that there are very clear ways that he can keep these numbers, improve in others, and be slightly better next season and maybe the season after. After 2 more years there, is where we start to get into more of those discussions of, okay, now do the assists drop? Now does the usage drop? Now do we have worries about the efficiency maintaining? That's probably in a 2-year time discussion. But for now, I wouldn't look at this and the decline in some of his stuff as being a big harbinger for the future. Harbinger, W word. Let's talk about another one of these younger guys, and that is Tyus Jones, who I talked a lot about Tyus Jones in the last show about the Suns. You can talk about that there, and I'm not going to rehash all that. And maybe I was a bit harsh to Tyus, but I think at this point, and there's quite a few players we're going to talk about here, that we sort of, I think, know who they are. Tyus Jones is not a starting point guard on a very good team. He's a high-level backup point guard who's also now 29. He played 27 minutes a night. He started the season as a starter. He still generated 5.3 assists and shot 41 from 3. None of that stuff is bad, obviously. Low usage player, high passing volume. Defensively, I think he struggled a lot, and he has in the past. Drip really hated him. I actually thought he declined a lot. And I think that's fair because I don't think he was very good this season. He's definitely not a guy that you would want to pay to be a starter. He's a guy that you want to have on your team, and I'll use his former team, Memphis, as an example. The way that Scottie Pippen can be used. You can play him as a starter when you need to. You play him as a high-level backup so your team doesn't go off the rails when he's on the court. But if you want to bank on him being a 32-minute-a-night starting caliber player, I think you're going to just be in for a bad time. And that's what the Suns tried to do. And then they corrected their ways mid-season, but they'd already sort of built their team around that being the case. So yeah, he's an interesting sort of a player. He was 197th overall in category leagues. And again, when you go to look at your Yahoo total ranks, it'll tell you that he was the 76th ranked player. And if you ever wanted an example, and there's millions of them, but if you want an example of why looking at Yahoo 9cat total rankings tell you absolutely nothing, in fact, tell you the incorrect information about the value of a player, that's where you are. Because you know what 76 is? It's above average as a fantasy contributor. Because 156 players in a league, you're talking the 78 is the middle point. So you're saying he was the 76th ranked player, so he would have been one of your top half players on your roster. He would have been your 6th best player on a roster. Get out of here. Just actually get out of here. I almost dropped a million F-bombs in that sentence because that's just my nature. Just get out of here. He had only played 81 games, but honestly, who cares if you play 81 games if you get 10, 2, and 5? That is useless. It's not useless. Useless would be Damian Lee. Right? That's useless. 10, 2, and 5. If I stream in that position during the week, I blow it out of the water. It's not even comparatively close. Yet, he's considered a top half standard league player by those rankings. Absolutely get out of here. He was 160th before the trade deadline, 255th after it, 171st in points leagues. He did not belong on a roster for the majority of the season. Yet, he's the 76th ranked player. That's going to be my go-to about people dropping a 9cat totals ranking on me. I'll be like, yeah, Tyus Jones was 76th, yeah? Very good season with his 10 points and 2 rebounds. So look, we are almost definitely not going to be in any sort of spot that we look to Tyus Jones as a fantasy guy next season. Now, things could be interesting. Because what if Durant leaves? What if they find a way to trade Beal and they bring Jones back? And it is Jones and Booker. who are starting, and then that changes the dynamic. But overall, the upside of Jones is so low. It's so low as a long-term prospect. He's 29. What's he improving on? Can he be better than that usage-wise? Yeah, probably a few ticks. Can he get to 7.5 assists? Absolutely he could. But it would need to be the right circumstance. He's a circumstance player. And the circumstance is just not available on as many teams as we might think it is. We've got some more guys to talk about in this younger group of the Phoenix Suns. We're going to get back to that in a sec, including talking about the GOAT, BDNR. But today's episode, it is brought to you by Monarch Money. You might check your bank account and go, where did all the money go? You might have been Tyus Jones hoping for a $10 million per season payday and have to settle for a minimum. And you go, well, I wanted more. What about all my eating out? What about my online shopping? What about my entertainment? I lost track of it. It's not there. Monarch Money can help you as your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money is not just a budgeting app, though. It's a complete financial command center. Track all of your accounts, all of your spending, all of your investments in one stop. So you're not just managing your money, you are building wealth. It's easy to collaborate, share your stuff with your partner as well. It makes it smoother than ever. Track shared and personal accounts, set your goals, and you can stay on the same page without the stress. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use the code LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That is monarchmoney.com. The code is LOCKEDONNBA for half off your first year. All right, let's go in here as we look at these Phoenix Suns players. We've done Devin Booker and Tyus Jones, and now it is time to move on to the savior of so many fantasy teams this season, the league-winning legend, Big Dick Nick Richards, traded for by the Phoenix Suns from the Charlotte Hornets to take over their starting spot after they demoted Jusuf Nurkic. Richards is 27 now. He had an 18 usage, and he finished the season ranked 203rd because, do you know why? He's not good. He's been not good for a long period of time. He's just, he's bad. And he doesn't defend well. He's horrendous on offense. He has no hands whatsoever. He can't pass. He can't shoot. He's bad. He's been bad. People convince themselves that he was good. But like with Tyus Jones, where I think the jury is out now, well, people go, yeah, he's not a starter. I think people look at Nick Richards and go, yeah, he's not good. He's a very good rebounder. That is true. 8.2 rebounds in 22 minutes is very good, but this is a team that needed a center. He started a few games and then played good minutes, and then he just would reduce down to 22 minutes because he was terrible. And his impact was bad. And look at those, so many on this team. The DPM Delta, 8th percentile. Drip, 41st. He contested 90th percentile contesting shots. That's pretty good. He ended up with 1 block a game. But you'd want to convert more of those, my guy. It's because also, he's bad. No offensive ability, no passing, 18th percentile in offensive load. He does nothing there. The things that he does is rebound, and that's it. 59% from the field. That's fine. 74 from the line. Totally okay. On incredibly low volume. He does have a fully non-guaranteed deal for this next season. I'm certain they will guarantee it. And he could be easily just in place as their starting center again. And honestly, if he is their starting center again, and the backup option is Oso Ighodaro, I'd rather they use Ighodaro. But I could see Nick Richards being maybe a later round draftable guy in fantasy. Just because if you're out there and whether you average 9 and 8 in 22 minutes, if you played 26 minutes and average 12 and 9 with 1.2 blocks on 60% shooting, it's okay. But part of the problem and why I harp on this as a joke, some of it, but I think it's also a good barometer of valuations of players, is that he's never going to be consistently 30 minutes a night because he's bad. He has such limited skill set overall for fantasy and real life that you need everything to go exactly right. You need him to play 30 minutes a night. You need him to be out there getting those minutes every single day just so you can get to 12 and 10 with 1.2 blocks. Because if anything is off, he's not good enough to away. He's an excellent shot blocker. He adds interesting passing from center. He shoots threes. He gets his hand on balls for steals. None of that's true. He doesn't do any of those things. He rebounds. He has field goal percentage. That's it. It's a two-cat, I'll say wonder, but he's bad. But that, again, doesn't preclude him at age 27 from having one season next season, potentially, as getting 22 minutes to 27 and being an okay back-end guy. That's all possible. Because everything is context. When he came across this season, I was like, I don't think this is a very good option because A, he's bad. B, they play small. C, there's Plumlee. D, there's Ighodaro. And we'll see what happens. But if Plumlee's gone, if Durant is gone so they're not playing small, if it's him and Ighodaro there and he plays 25 a night, Ighodaro plays 23, then I'm marginally in. But I still don't think he's good. And if we're looking at that long term, this is the test that I do like to use, especially when talking dynasty. When you look at the Suns, you go, do you think the Suns sit there and go, center's locked down, 5 years, we've got our starter? No, they don't. They don't even look at that and go, we've got our starter for next season. They'd be like, we'd be very happy to get an upgrade at center because he is not it. So when we're talking about valuations of players and how we try to look forward to them, the grip that they can have on that spot can be quite tenuous. And I think that's exactly where we're at with BD&R. Let's talk about, because it's been pretty negative about the Suns. I think rightfully so. They're one of the worst vibes team, one of the worst teams relative to expectations that we've seen in recent memory. But a positive story was the play of Collin Gillespie. He was a two-way guy with the Denver Nuggets, broke his leg in his first season, I think it was, and barely played, and had some injuries this season as well. But by the end of the year, he was starting games over Tyus Jones. If they had have made the play-in/playoffs, he would have been converted to a full-time contract. Now, he is older, he's 26. 18 usage, he only played 14 minutes a night and only 33 games on his two-way. He ended up 314th in Durant rankings, averaging 6 with 2.5 assists and 0.6 steals in those 14 minutes. But you'll notice the difference at post-trade deadline. Now, 268th is not good, but he was 491st before the deadline. His drip delta, 96th percentile. Darko, 82nd percentile. Passing volume, 76. Like, wasn't dominating the ball, 87th percentile. Offensive load, 79th. He deflected balls. He contested shots. He did important things for this team. And 14 minutes is nothing. Let's just double that for the sake of 28 minutes as a starter. Because, honestly, if they decide that Booker is not going to go back to point guard, and Jones isn't there, and Morris isn't there, Gillespie could get converted and honestly be a 28-minute starting point guard. It is, again, because the restrictions they have, he could possibly just be a starter. So what would it be? 12 points, 5 assists, 1.2 steals, 43 from 3, 86 from the line? I know that's not fantastic. It's not that much worse than Tyus Jones. And it'd be one of those ones that in deeper leagues you're marginally interested in. At the very worst, he's quite small, Collin Gillespie as well, which is a little concerning. At the very worst, I would say what we saw from Gillespie in a season where there are not many wins for the Phoenix Suns, this was a W, and he made himself look like, at very worst, he is a third-string, regular NBA point guard. And if you had to use him as your backup point guard, I think you'd be okay with it, in stretches. Does that mean that there is like huge jumps moving forward? 18 usage is not super strong. 2.5 assists is not super strong, but like, yet if Jones wasn't there and it was him and Booker, could he get 6, 7? Sure. I think it's actually possible. I don't think we should be relying upon it, but there is a shot to me that Gillespie is a rotation guy next season, and an outside shot, a 2% chance, that Collin Gillespie is a starting point guard for the Phoenix Suns, and is at least 16-team viable, and has a year where he's inside the top 180. I think it's possible. Am I a little delusional? Maybe. Do I really like Collin Gillespie? Not really. But that's the situation we're in. I was impressed at times with Oso Ighodaro. Late second-round pick from the Suns. Didn't really think we'd actually get much of him in the rotation, but he started games. He played 61 games in 17 minutes. He's 23 as a rookie, so that's not super young. But the fact that he was able to play 17 minutes a night as a rookie, I thought was pretty impressive. He only averaged 4 points and 3.5 boards. That's not huge, obviously. That's in 17 minutes. Half a steal, half a block. Okay. He can't shoot. He shot 60 from the field, but can't shoot threes, can't shoot free throws. But he contested well. He was able to generate a decent amount of steals. His Darko Delta, 99th percentile. Interesting, drip had him at 6th percentile. I don't really understand that. Because I would have said that the expectations for Ighodaro were pretty small. And then by the end of the season, you go, yeah, I'm okay if he's a rotation big man. He's not really a 4, but I guess at times you can sort of play that. He's a small ball 5 who can pass a little bit as well. Now, he didn't really show much of that. 46th percentile passing creation volume is not a huge number, but when your offensive load is 5th and your time on ball is 25th, that should at least stand out somewhat. Is he a Mason Plumlee type of passer? I think he's a little bit more creative than Mason, and Mason's had some pretty high assist numbers, largely the Domantas Sabonis way of getting assists, like getting it and just handing it to someone. But Ighodaro shows a little bit more flash there. He's a little undersized, but he's a decent enough defender. And I think the Suns have found a backup caliber big man with that pick. He is 23. How much room is there to improve from a fantasy and dynasty perspective? I think there's enough. Second half of the season or post-deadline, 232nd in category leagues. It's not terrible in lowish minutes. Will he ever be a top 100 guy? I'd be pretty surprised. Top 150 is possible. I think there's a chance in the next 2 years we get a 23-minute season out of him. And again, if we're going to highlight a lot of negatives, because there are a lot, him and Collin Gillespie, I think were pretty positives. They're pretty, getting that out of Ighodaro as a second-round pick and being able to hang on an NBA court and actually take minutes away from other players, I think it's got to be considered a huge positive. Is it sky-high upside? Not really. But enough little things there. Think of another second-round pick, Jonathan Mobo for the Raptors. I don't think Ighodaro is as good as Mobo. He's got nowhere near the level of fantasy upside. But if Ighodaro was in Mobo's situation in Toronto the last few weeks of the season, and they weren't, because the Raptors obviously weren't pushing, but the Suns were, I think Ighodaro could have had, I'll say 80% of what Mobo did there. So he's a name to watch, I think. I would almost go as far as to say that he might even be more of a name to watch than their other rookie, who played also way more than I thought, Ryan Dunn. Ryan Dunn's numbers in college were so weird. He never took threes. He could not shoot at all. Couldn't hit free throws, never took threes, they never went in, but he had 1 million steals and 1 million blocks. Coming into the NBA, he started taking threes. Now, early on, was oh my God, the Suns found somebody. They've turned him into a shooter. And I think a lot of you would be surprised to find out that he shot 31% on threes. So was he good? Absolutely not. He was actually bad. He shot under 49% from the free throw line. Again, horrific. But his expectation was so low that when he came out firing threes, we went, oh my God, they've turned him into a shooter. In the end, he wasn't a shooter. He was terrible at it. And he averaged 7 points. But part of the problem with Dunn is that you wanted a level of respect for the shot. You wanted him to take those shots to try and do something offensively so he could stay on the court and generate big defensive numbers. But he averaged 0.6 steals. What? In 19 minutes. Bro. I want Matisse Thybulle numbers here. I want you to give me 1.6 in 19 minutes. I want 0.9 blocks in 19 minutes. You got 0.6 and 0.5. 16th percentile in rim contest, 46th percentile deflections. Bro, come on. That's a problem. Now, could it change next season? He's more comfortable. He gets back to more of that disruptive defense? Possibly. But I would have wanted those numbers to be way higher this season. This isn't to say that he is a bad on-court defender, because he's a pretty good defender. His advanced stuff was pretty positive. He's never going to do anything passing-wise, on-ball-wise, offensive load-wise, usage-wise. 17 usage actually higher than I thought it would ever get to. But he didn't take advantage in the second half of the season. He didn't improve. He was the guy that took over from Bradley Beal in the starting lineup and then was moved back and forth from the bench. I don't think you ever want Ryan Dunn playing 30 minutes a night, honestly. Maybe, it's hard to know after 1 year, but in 4 years' time, could he have become respectable enough offensively where he averages 10 points and 2 threes, but also 2 steals and 5 rebounds and 3 assists? Maybe. But I think, again, we looked at this and go, what a great success. The offense, the shoot, it's all there. And he shot 31 from 3 and 49 from the line and 43 overall. That's not actually good. That's good when you're starting from the absolute basement of all basements. But going from the worst to above the worst is not good. It doesn't make you good. And that's part of the problem with a guy of his size, especially when you aren't actually playmaking defensively. He wasn't playmaking defensively. We wanted him to, and that would be part of the appeal from a fantasy perspective. Don't shoot, don't score. Get me 2 steals and a block a game. And then anything else you provide on top of that is just additional. But that didn't happen. He was actually listed as a negative in Darko DPM, which, again, is a concern. It is a concern. He improved as the season went on, but overall, I would say marginally a little bit a little bit disappointing. Compare that to his namesake, Chris Dunn. Right? Chris Dunn, steal percentage, 3.2. Ryan Dunn, 1.4. Right? Says a lot. We wanted the turnovers. They did not come. One thing I will give him significant credit for, finish at the rim at a really high rate. 70% at the rim, huge number. But the other stuff, work in progress. And it is very hard to be a consistent fantasy producer if all you're relying upon is your defense, and then that defense doesn't actually translate into defensive numbers. So it was great that Ryan Dunn hit 1-3 a game. That is really strong, right? We did not expect that, obviously. But he took way more threes than we thought. His 3-point percentage was way better than we thought. But in the end, it hovered in an area where I don't think we have tremendous faith in that moving forward. I don't. We've got a couple more guys to get through. And get through them we will. Let's talk the GOAT. Let's talk Bol Bol. Much like with Tyus Jones, much like with Nick Richards, I'm not getting into arguments or discussions about whether Bol is good anymore. He's not. He was given an opportunity. And this is the thing with Bol, is unlike Richards, and unlike, even to a degree, Jones, is if Bol Bol plays 25 minutes a night, he will rack up numbers and he will be absolutely fantastic for fantasy. But the caveat will always remain that he is bad. And he cannot maintain that role all those minutes because he sucks. Now, he did improve, I thought, quite a bit this season. He was much better than he's been in the past. 21 usage. In the past, he'd go higher than that. But one thing that changed was like, what happened to Bro's blocks? He ended up playing 12 minutes a night for 0.7 blocks, which is not, like, that's not terrible. It's actually pretty good. But contest percentage 29th? Doesn't pass. 48th percentile offensive load with passing creation 7th, like just black hole offensively. He shot 34 from 3 and 53 from the field and 77 from the line, which is fine, but it's not elite. He took shots as an offensive big man. Doesn't pass, doesn't get steals, and honestly just makes poor decisions in terms of ignoring his teammates, in terms of being out of position offensively and defensively. Now, it improved a lot this season, but it went from how are you still in the league to, okay, we can sort of play you at times. But there's got to be something that every single coach that he plays for is just like, I can't with this guy. The good never outweighs the bad. He got opportunity to start under Budenholzer. It lasted about 5 games, and Bud went, we're just not, bro, we're not playing you now. Is it because of his on-court play entirely? Not necessarily. Maybe there's something else going on off the court and the way he interacts. I don't know. But it's a pattern every year. Injuries, gets a chance, puts up stats. We use it for fantasy, but the ability for it to stick is just never there. And now he's an unrestricted free agent. And this is what, again, if you ever want to use Shaquille O'Neal or anyone on NBA, inside the NBA, or Charles Barkley as one of their comments to back up your opinion in basketball, just know that they spent hours during the All-Star game, before the All-Star game, talking about how Bol Bol was Wemby 1.0, how he does the same things as what Wemby does. Which again shows you that while Shaq was a great player, Hall of Fame level player, has no idea what's going on actually on the court. None. Doesn't have any idea regarding what makes a player good or what is impacting things at this moment in the NBA. Because those things can be, am I a Hall of Fame NBA player? Absolutely not. But I also know that Bol Bol is not Victor Wembanyama. So just always remember that the All-Star game got hijacked to discuss Bol Bol by those clowns. And I do not know what team Bol is going to be playing for next season. He might be on a team, but one thing I do know is that no team is going to be giving him a shot to be a starter. 2 more guys to talk about here. One of them is TyTy Washington, who is a guy that, as a Kentucky guard, I thought had a real chance in the NBA. He did not. He has been terrible, and I got that one way wrong in the draft. He's bounced around multiple teams. He only played 7 minutes a game here. The Suns don't like to give these sort of guys any minutes at all. He was 523rd. He averaged 2 points with an assist. He shot 19% from 3. I don't really know what to make of all that, honestly. Like, there's not enough playing time for him or for the next guy we're going to talk about, Jalen Bridges, to like understand anything about what they did in the NBA. Washington did get some playing time towards the very end of the season, but it's not just the Suns that have failed to give him opportunities. And so I'm not just going to fully look at that and go, well, it's their bad development that led to that. But look, in saying all of this, TyTy Washington, last season in the G League, shot 38%. This season from 3. This season, shot 41% from 3. Averaged 22 points in the G League with 7 assists. They are really good numbers. And he's shown steady improvement. The Suns is not a good place to be for that sort of thing. And it is 3 years now in the NBA for Washington. But I don't know. Maybe I'm being foolish and thinking that maybe he could develop into a backup point guard. The way that like a Ryan Rollins was able to do that in Milwaukee. The shooting is bad in the NBA, but it's been consistently real across the G League. So I'm not going to fully write him off. I'd say one more year and then we get into a situation of like, okay, I think we might be out on that. But there was some interesting G League numbers there, which it's not everything, and obviously didn't get a chance to do anything in the NBA, even when they needed somebody, that I'm not going to fully write it off. The last guy is a guy that I thought could have been a first-round pick, and that's Jalen Bridges. He ended up falling out of the draft, and I thought some of it was, well, there was a deal organized because he was snapped up immediately by the Suns. They negotiated this 2-way contract, and he was going to get an opportunity to play. Not really. 32 minutes total. 8 games, 4 minutes a game. 19 usage. These numbers that you can look at on the screen, the NBA numbers, they don't mean anything. We just didn't see him play. We can look at his G League numbers where he played 33 minutes a night. He averaged 15 points. That's not that good. He attempted 7 threes a game and hit 39%. Oh, okay. 1 steal, 0.8 blocks. 0.8 blocks, interesting as a guard. 5 rebounds, 1.4 assists. Now, again, are they great numbers? Were they 18 usage in the G League? Not really. Like, they're fine. They're not great. But enough there as a defensive wing who shoots threes. Like, what do you call those guys? 3 and D? Maybe. The Suns need a huge change, clearly, in the way that they develop, coach, the GM, and they're on the way to making another one of those changes. I'm not suggesting that Jalen Bridges is this star ready to blow up, and I think my pre-draft evaluation on him was way too high. Admittedly in a bad draft, but I think it was way too high on him. But to me, I actually do think that in 2 years' time, he could get a rotation role and be useful enough. Like, think about Cody Martin on this team. I'm pretty sure that Bridges could at least get to close to a Cody Martin level in a few years' time. We have no evidence of that in the NBA so far, and maybe we don't ever get it. He might not even be back on this team. But I'm not much with Washington. There was the couple little flashes with both Bridges and Washington in some of those numbers where I go, maybe. Probably not, but maybe. And that's the Suns. An incredibly disappointing season, an incredibly unsure off-season coming up, and we just don't know where they're going to go. We don't know their coach. We don't know if Durant's going to be there. Tyus Jones, Mason Plumlee, what moves they make. Do they keep themselves in the second apron? I don't know. You can keep yourself in my second apron by thumbing up this video, subscribing, and leaving comments down below. And get ready for our Dynasty show tomorrow. We're going to talk about a couple of guys to buy, a couple of guys to sell, an off-the-radar player that deserves some discussion as well. Guys, we are done here. Thank you so much for listening, everyone. See ya.